Welcome, everybody, to Oklahoma City Nonprofits in Action, where we are highlighting community impact and some of the really good, cool, amazing things happening right here in our city, right here in OKC. So we have a special guest today. They're all special, but this one is also special. Additionally, we have Katy Leffel today with Skyline Urban Outreach, who we're going to talk to in just a moment, figure out what that organization is all about, and how her story fits into all of that. Before we get there, I want to take a brief moment to talk about our sponsor. This episode is brought to you by Rose Records. They partner with organizations, businesses, and brands to create a content engine that grows your platform. They can do video work right here in studio or out at your site. Their core commitment is that everything moves at the speed of story. And they believe that relationships matter more than short-term transactions. To learn more, go to roserecords.co. Well, thanks again for that sponsor. We really appreciate you helping bring this episode to life and getting it into everybody's ears and eyes that is watching this and consuming this content. So we want to thank them. But we also want to thank Katy for being on this episode, who we appreciate anybody that says, sure, I'll jump on a podcast with you, Jake.
Thanks for having me, Jake. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. I'm excited too because you have a really cool organization. You do. That I'm impressed with, and we'll get into the details in a little bit. But before we get lost in those details, let's talk about the individual. Let's talk about somebody's story who has been changed and transformed and is better off after they participated with Skyline.
Absolutely. So I'm going to share about a woman named Dorothy. And I got to connect with Dorothy last fall when she came. She is a volunteer with Friends at the Library and came to bring Skyline some books for our free bookshelf. And in talking with Dorothy, found out that Dorothy has also been a client of Skyline's for a long time. Had a car accident a number of years ago that really threw her life off of track. Had multiple surgeries, at one point lost her home, and came to and found Skyline as a resource, as a place where she could receive help. We were able to connect her with food, with clothing that she needed at that time. Dorothy has been working hard to rebuild her life, is now in a much better position, a much better place. And as I said, spends some of her volunteer energy with Friends of the Library and wanted to bring that love to us at Skyline. And so now shows up with books to help make sure that our patrons can select a book, and just talked about how much getting a book when she was in a time where she needed help made a huge difference to her. And so that would just be a small example, of one person that I can think of just off the top of my head, who really exemplifies that sort of, that sometimes our services, are coming into their lives in a short, period of time when they have a great deal of need. We don't always get to see the end effects.
Yeah.
And so it's really fun when we get to connect with someone like Dorothy and get to see and hear how the part that we played made a difference.
Well, I love that giving to her and then she gives back. I mean, that's beautiful. That's a full circle moment like that. It's awesome. Love to hear that. So let's get broader then. What is Skyline? I know, right? What are the kind of things that you guys are doing? You could take us through the different programs, however you want to navigate that. Talk to us.
Go for it. Okay.
Yeah.
I got this, Jake. So Skyline's mission is to bridge the resource gaps for our neighbors in need. So we know that a lot of Oklahomans do not have access to the things that they need to live a healthy life. And so Skyline is there to provide clothing, food, and eye care. So those are kind of our three main umbrella areas of service, the biggest being food. So you may or may not know that unfortunately Oklahoma is the 6th hungriest state in the nation.
Okay.
We have so many of our neighbors that do not have access to adequate, affordable food to keep their families and themselves fed. And so at Skyline, we run a food resource center, which is a small grocery store, basically. Our patrons can come once every 30 days and shop for free. They receive about a 6 to 8 day supply of groceries based on the number of people that they live with. And Jake, it's really set up just like a regular grocery store. Dignity and kindness are our two big core values at Skyline.
Absolutely.
So we want everybody who comes in to feel welcomed, to feel like they're being treated in a way that's respectful and dignified. And so you and I, when we have food needs, we go to the store and we pick out what we want, right?
Yeah.
So we want, within the constraints of what we have available at Skyline at any given time, to give our patrons that same experience. So they're able to go into our store with a grocery cart, walk up and down the aisles, and they're given a card that matches a number system that's based on the number of people they live with. So they can grab a number of items off of each shelf based on that system, but what they choose is up to them. So they're able to make the selection from what we have available, what works best for their family. We know that that's important, again, just for dignity and kindness and a respectful way to treat people. But also we have a lot of things that surround food in our lives, right? So some people have food allergies. We have food preferences. We have cultural differences in the ways that we like to eat. And so we know that it's less wasteful. We're making sure people are getting things that they can actually use and know how to prepare and know how to cook.
Yeah.
And so we love having that opportunity there for people to come and shop in person, just like a regular grocery store. And when they walk out the door, it's amazing to see the smiles on their faces and the relief on their face, knowing that they've got the food they need to get through the next, hopefully, a week or so.
Right.
Based on what we can provide.
It is like a grocery store. I've popped in,
Yes.
but it's also way more efficient. You guys run a smooth operation there.
Well, again, Jake, back to the level of food insecurity that people are experiencing in our state. In the time that I've been in my position, so I started as Skyline CEO in August of 2022, and we've more than doubled the number of people we're serving each year in the time that I've been in my position.
Wow. Okay.
And so my team is amazing. We have a small but mighty team of 12. Last year, we provided groceries to 81,000 Oklahomans. Like 28,000 unique Oklahomans.
Okay.
So we're serving a lot of people.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We operate 5 days a week and one Saturday a month. And so, yes, efficiency is the name of the game. We want it to be that dignified, respectful process. We also want it to be fast because, again, you and I, if we need to go get groceries, we don't have to go sign in. We don't have to wait our turn.
Yeah.
We're able to just walk in the store and get what we need. And unfortunately, we don't quite have that system in place yet at Skyline, but we do our very best to move people through efficiently and be really respectful of their time.
Yeah. So we got the food.
Yes.
What else?
Well, 2 more things on food. So
Great.
in addition to our on-site store, we also have a mobile pantry. And that is a box truck that takes food out to 15 different sites around the community each month. So we visit the same 15 sites monthly. That's an opportunity for us to connect with people who are facing barriers to access. So people who have no access to transportation, we're bringing the food closer to where they live. We're serving in food deserts. We're going to senior living centers, low-income senior housing centers, where people might have not just transportation barriers, but also physical limitations. You can imagine if you use a mobility device, how difficult it would be with a wheelchair or a walker to get to Skyline, to get out of your car, to shop for your groceries, to get those groceries back home, and then back up into your apartment unit. And then also we have a lot of neighbors in Oklahoma City that are experiencing homelessness. And so some of our mobile pantry sites are focused on those folks as well. So the mobile pantry kind of complements what we're doing with the Food Resource Center and sort of expanding that access. Yeah. And then our garden program is really adjacent also. So that's kind of our third food related program. So we have a very large urban garden. It's beautiful out there. I was actually just there. We're having a garden open house this afternoon. Okay. And so that garden is really designed to provide us access to really fresh, healthy food. One of the things we know about our neighbors that have food insecurity in their lives is that sometimes the healthiest, best food is also the least affordable. You might have experienced that, like going and you want to get some berries, you want to get some greens, and that is some of the most expensive stuff in the store. And so our garden provides us the opportunity to provide peak fresh, farmers market level quality produce directly to our patrons. So last year, our garden was able to produce over 9,100 pounds of food that was then directly distributed to food insecure Oklahomans. So really proud of that program and the work that it's doing. Also a lot of education going on in that program, teaching people how to garden, getting together with volunteers and working with the school as well.
Sweet.
So that's all the food stuff.
Okay, that's the food stuff.
That's the food stuff. I've wrapped up the food stuff. Next up, I'm gonna go into eye care.
Yeah.
So Skyline actually operates its own small eye clinic for the uninsured, and so our eye clinic program was designed to provide a medical grade eye exam to our patrons who have no vision insurance.
Mm.
So we like to joke, people who have health insurance, we even know that eyes, ears, and teeth are just like not a part of the human body, right?
Yeah,
Like
sure.
we treat them for insurance purposes like they're completely
Right,
just
for
like
some
not
reason.
integrated into our whole self.
Mhm.
So we know that there are a lot of people that don't have the ability to access an eye vision appointment because they don't have insurance. And so we have volunteer doctors, optometrists, and ophthalmologists that volunteer. We have our on site clinic, so we can schedule patrons to come and get an eye exam from a volunteer physician at our facility. For most people, what they're really looking for is an updated vision prescription. So
Mhm.
you've got glasses on today,
Yep,
right?
yep,
So
yep.
we know glasses, important part of having a healthy life, right? Is being able to see well, to
I do
work,
like to
to
see.
drive, to watch
Yeah.
TV, to do all of the fun things that we like to
Mhm.
do. And so most of our patrons, what they're looking for is that updated vision prescription, which they can get at one of our no cost appointments. And then we also operate our own small optical shop. So we have like a little glasses store right on site at Skyline with a wide variety of types of frames, sizes, shapes, colors, styles, because again, that dignity and respect,
Yeah.
right? We want people not just
Mhm.
to be able to see, but to have a pair of glasses that they really love. And so they can order and we can custom cut their vision prescription for them. We can do single vision and bifocal lenses for $45 a pair.
Mm.
And then we have scholarship dollars available to make that more affordable.
Yeah. That's awesome. Like I
So,
said, big fan of seeing, and I think that's a really cool
yes.
work that you're doing. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And then our final program, Jake, is our Style Shop. So,
Right.
Style Shop is a clothing program. I say that just because on occasion we have people who think maybe it's hair,
Oh,
like
yeah. Okay.
style.
Yeah. I see.
So it's a clothing program, so designed to give people access to affordable, adequate clothing for their families.
Mhm.
And so really we take in donations of gently used clothing from the community. We sometimes come into new clothing items as well, and we just make that available to our clients on site. We have a small store set up at our facility. Anyone in the community can walk in and access those items. Everything's $1. Kids things are four items for $1.
Right.
So we're not really trying to generate revenue. It's really more just an inventory control measure. But we also give away a lot of that clothing for free. So anyone who comes to us with a referral from a partner agency, from a caseworker, from a church, and they can self-refer to, Jake, if you were to come in and say, hey, I had a house fire. I'm really in need for clothing for my family. We're
Mhm.
going to give you a referral as a walk-in as well. So anyone with a referral can get 10 free items of clothing for themselves and each member of their family. And then that's going to include brand new socks and underwear, whatever shoes we have available.
Great. Wow.
So yeah, we like to think of ourselves as being kind of a one-stop shop for a couple of different things.
Sure.
And a lot of times that's our programs kind of feed each other with a cycle of referrals, right? You might get sent to us for clothing and then you understand we have food and then you understand you can access the eye care as well.
Yeah.
So it kind of all works together to meet the needs of our patrons.
And you said team of 12? All that?
All
Run
that.
by I love it. I love it. That's awesome.
Yes, we are busy.
Like I said, you guys have a good operation there. And yes, I'm sure that you're busy.
Yes.
I am curious, just maybe some myths and misconceptions about kind of your clientele. If you want to speak to the kinds of people, the kinds of Oklahomans that you are serving, and maybe some, like I said, some things we maybe falsely think about the people that might need your services.
Yeah, absolutely. The numbers game alone, Jake, like
Mm.
Skyline's customer looks like the people you see around our community
Sure.
every day.
Yeah.
And there really is no profile of a person
Okay.
who
Yeah.
experiences food insecurity. And we find that from the data as well. We do collect a lot of data from our clients so that we know and understand who we're serving. We know that we really racially, we serve about a third of Black, white, and Hispanic Oklahomans.
Okay.
We have about 6% Native American clients. A lot of our families have children. And then
Mhm.
we also serve a significant portion, about 20% of senior citizens.
Yeah.
So really the Skyline client looks like all of the people that we see and meet in our community.
Right. Right.
And so it's interesting, a real potpourri. You cannot profile who really is struggling from time to time to make ends meet. And the other thing that I think is really interesting that I'd love to share as a statistic is although people could come once a month to get food from us, we really find that that is not the frequency that the vast majority of our clients
That
come and
is
visit
interesting.
us.
Yeah.
So 74% of our clients last year came 3 times or less.
Okay. Hmm.
80% of our clients came quarterly or less often. So, for the vast majority of our clients, we really are that resource that fills a gap in a month where they have an unexpected expense, whether that's a medical bill, a tire that pops and they've got to get to work.
Yep.
The vast majority of our clients are working Oklahomans that just have times where they can't quite make ends meet. And unfortunately, it's hard to come across assistance for things like rent and utilities. But at Skyline, you can walk in and you can replace $100+ worth of your food budget
Sure.
with access to food from us, and then take that money to spend on an expense that you can't get around to keep
Yeah.
the light bill on, to help make sure that you can pay your rent. So we know we're an important part of the safety net that keeps people housed, and keeps people floating above that poverty line, just is the
Right.
best that we can.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's why I asked. I think there's this view that, I don't know, there's a certain kind of clientele or certain like the reality though is that can kind of happen to anybody. We
Absolutely.
need these social safety nets like Skyline in our city, in our world.
We do. And I mean, I think anyone who's paying attention to the current political climate will understand that at the national level, policies and procedures are really changing on a lot of our national level social
Mhm.
safety programs. Medicaid, SNAP are all sort of being drastically changed. So,
Sure.
policies that have been in place for a long time are being drastically changed and designed in ways to reduce the number of people that are accessing them. And so, what we know is we already have so many people. I believe last year it was 22% of Oklahomans relied on SNAP to meet their
Okay.
nutritional needs.
Mhm.
That's a huge percentage. And so, as new work requirements take effect, as some complicated cost sharing measures for states related to our error rate for administering SNAP go into place,
Mm.
the burden on our state is going to go up financially. And Oklahoma, unfortunately, traditionally has not been a state that is very willing to invest in those social safety net programs.
Sure.
And so we just know the burden is going to continue to shift more towards Oklahoma nonprofits like Skyline and
Yeah.
like so many of the others that you're talking to as part of this
Right.
series.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I do want to get into cause that I do want to get into how people can help. But I also want to talk about you, Katie.
Sure.
Um, how did you get to be sitting here today? How did you become CEO of Skyline? What's that story?
Well, I have a pretty unconventional path to becoming a CEO.
Hmm.
I actually started, I grew up in central Illinois, so I'm not an Oklahoma native.
Okay. That's all
Went
right.
to University of Iowa for my undergrad and was a science education major. So I started my career as a teacher,
Okay.
taught here when I moved to Oklahoma in the Putnam City School District, taught eighth grade science, which I've loved.
Mhm.
Got my degree to be a principal from OU. And then ended up having my kids and staying home with them for a long time as a mom. And during that time, really gave myself sort of a boots on the ground education in nonprofit. And when I went back into the workforce, went back into the nonprofit world instead of into the education world because I
Right.
loved it so much. With Skyline, I got to know Skyline first as a donor through my church years and years ago when my kids were really little. And then in 2014, Skyline completed a big renovation on their building. I had a dear friend who was a board member at that time who said, you need to come down here. I think you would really love volunteering at Skyline. And I started coming on Tuesday mornings to bag groceries in our food resource center just as a volunteer activity when my little kids were in preschool, and fell in love with the mission.
Yeah.
And so I got recruited to join their board of directors and did 2 3-year terms and got the opportunity to be the board chair for 2 of those years. And just absolutely loved deepening my involvement with the organization. I'm incredibly passionate about their mission, love being involved. And so then, Jake, I rolled off the board to model that good board behavior. We're supposed to have term limits for our board
Sure.
members. And around that time, Skyline's previous director retired a little bit ahead of schedule. So we had been doing some succession planning as a board, but they had kind of moved up their timeline. And so I still had some good friends on the board who, when they were looking to fill the position, reached out to me and said, "Hey, would you be interested in interviewing for this position?" And I said, "Absolutely," because I love nonprofit work and I absolutely am thrilled to have the opportunity to get to be on staff now at Skyline because I feel like it's an organization that I've been able to be involved with for so many years.
Yeah.
So I like to joke, Jake, like Skyline's kind of a gateway drug. So you have to be careful. You show
Sure.
up as a volunteer and then, who knows where that could lead you?
That's fair. That's fair. Well, that is a story that we've heard before on this podcast.
I bet it is.
That you get roped in, and then that's your life now.
That's right.
But it's good. I mean, it's good that that you are attracted to this mission, that you are in a place where you can serve people and, feel like you're doing some good in the world, and you are doing some good in the world. And so that's exciting to land in a place like that. I've had my own teaching background, and I'm sure that this is very different, but maybe sometimes it is like managing eighth graders. I don't know. I don't want to judge your staff.
They're kind of, it's not so much my staff. I think it's the overall, there's just a lot of human interaction that happens when you're a forward facing social services agency, right?
Yeah.
So really at the end of the day, what leadership is in a nonprofit is problem solving, right? So
Okay.
constant problem solving. Every day is a new set of
Makes
problems.
sense.
And Skyline's a really dynamic place. No day is ever the same as the one before. You never know what's going to come your way. And I like that fast paced environment, but I like it because it is all in service of helping people, right? So
Absolutely.
the time that you spend investing in solving those problems, the time that you spend hustling to make sure that everything's working the way that it should, you're doing because you're making sure that 28,000 unique people are going to get groceries that they need to live a healthy life this year. So
Yeah.
that kind of makes it a really meaningful problem solving process.
Well, absolutely. Absolutely. And I am glad you're doing that and involved. And speaking of involved, I mean, how do other people get into this gateway drug of being addicted to
Absolutely.
serving at Skyline? Besides like the traditional donations, how can people get involved? What kind of things do you need?
Yeah.
Talk to us.
I mean, having started as a volunteer, I'm going to shout that out as one of the best ways to get involved at Skyline. So, one of the cool things about volunteering at Skyline is that you actually get to be really forward facing with our clients.
Yeah.
And so, sometimes you go places and volunteer and you don't necessarily get to see and interact with the people that you're helping. And so, it's a really cool opportunity. I found it to be a really powerful opportunity for my kids when they were young teens. And it's really a popular place for young people to volunteer because of that.
That's good to know. Yeah.
So we can use volunteers anytime that we're open. And as I mentioned, we're open 5 days a week. We're also open one Saturday a month. We love to have volunteer groups. We affectionately refer to summer as Youth Group Summer. We have a lot of different youth groups and teams and kids groups that are coming through and doing service projects and opportunities with us. We also have a lot of business groups that like to come and volunteer. It's a great place to be with coworkers, to do that service. It's a really active and engaging place to be. And then on the flip side for us, we really rely on volunteer help. As I mentioned, with a really small staff and the number of people that we serve, there are just a lot of things that don't get done at Skyline without volunteer help. And so volunteering is a great way to jump in. It's really easy to sign up to volunteer just by going to our website, hitting up that volunteer section. There's a little form you can fill out, and then we'll get in touch with you to get you scheduled. So
Great.
volunteering is great. The other thing is just, beyond cash donations, there are a lot of ways in kind to help Skyline.
Right.
Certainly, if you have a bag of clothing that your kids have outgrown or that you've outgrown style-wise,
There
your
you go.
vibe has changed, we can take donations of clothing anytime that we're open. We love to have those. That helps us fill our style shop and meet those needs.
Yeah.
We can also take donations of gently used glasses. We can reuse the frames to create a brand new pair of glasses for one of our clients.
Yeah.
And then food wise, sometimes people like to do a drive more than they like to make a donation. And so there are always items that we love to have, those pantry staples that we're looking for all the time for Skyline store.
Right.
And so some of the big ones for that, canned protein is always a huge one. So things like protein or canned chicken or canned tuna, things that are shelf stable that we can give out that aren't going to expire on people. Staples like rice, pasta, chunky soups are always a
Okay.
big need. So there's lots of different food items. It's fun sometimes to get donations from a food drive because they provide some variety that we don't always have. So when we
makes
order, a
sense.
lot of times we're ordering things by the case. And so we might have a lot of one kind of a thing versus when you and I go to the grocery store and you look at a section and there might be lots of different brands and types of a product.
I know, it's overwhelming.
I know.
I just choose the cheapest one, but
That-
my wife doesn't always approve of that. But that's how I do it.
That's right. So in-kind donations are also really welcome.
hmm Okay, so it's quite a bit of ways, and I like that you highlighted too that like teenagers can get involved too.
Yes. Can I do a shout out really quickly?
Please, always shout out.
So it may be by the time this airs, our period of taking these applications and may be over, but I'm going to shout it out anyway for the
Okay.
future. Skyline is starting a teen board for the first time this year.
Okay.
And so we have applications live on our website through May 31st. So any high schoolers who are looking to get involved in a nonprofit and earn some service hours and gain some leadership skills, we're going to kick off our inaugural teen board this year as another way just to offer for young people to get involved in our mission.
I think that's super cool. I've seen several organizations do the teen board kind of thing, or some of them do like a young professionals kind of board. Whatever it is, I love that. I think that's a really cool way to, build a good resume, looking for colleges, and obviously the most important part, to serve your community.
That's right. To learn what it means to serve.
To learn what it means to serve.
Yeah. And for a lot of the kids that we see coming and volunteering, to really open their eyes to the community need. A lot of times I think we all get in our little bubbles and we don't see how many people need our help. And so exposing kids to that from a young age, I think, is really powerful.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that is very powerful. And Skyline would be a great place for people to volunteer with and to get involved with. So awesome. You've given us a lot to chew on, and you've gone through the whole process of well, I shouldn't say all that Skyline is, because I'm sure it's more than even what you talked about. But let's get a little silly here as we start to wrap up the episode. Well, I don't know about silly, but just let's turn a little bit from this conversation about nonprofit work and all that fun stuff. I want to ask you, what Oklahoma sport are you following these days?
Okay, this is a great question. And I'm gonna first make myself unpopular by saying OU OSU is kind of a toss-up for me.
Okay.
I'm not a native Oklahoman.
Yeah.
Although my husband went to OU for undergrad and law school, and I have a master's from OU. I also have a son who's getting ready to graduate next weekend from OSU.
Yes, there you go.
So I'm going to stay neutral and not get into the OU OSU throwdown.
I respect that.
And go with my OKC Thunder.
There you go.
So I am thrilled, obviously, to be watching the Thunder get deep into the playoffs, hopefully again.
Mm-hmm.
Was a big fan, obviously, of watching them win the championship last year. I grew up in Illinois in the 90s, Jake. So I was a Bulls girl. I got to watch the three-peat and the repeat back in the day.
Okay.
And so this is like reliving my glory days, but with the Thunder this time around.
Yeah.
And it is so much fun to get to be right in the heart of all of it. Here in Oklahoma City.
I know. Here in Oklahoma City, indeed, it is fun. It is fun to see that kind of energy, that pride, in.
And then just also as a shout out, like, it's a nonprofit leader. It's hard not to love our Thunder. What they do for the community is so incredible.
Yeah, sure.
They show up in so many big ways for all of the nonprofits in the Oklahoma City area and are really engaged as a team. And so you'd be hard-pressed to find a nonprofit leader in Oklahoma City who is also not a huge Thunder fan for a variety of reasons.
That's good to know. Okay, yes. I'll make a note of that. We did actually talk about earlier getting some Thunder something in our back shelf here for those that are on video. So we might have to spruce that up, make it look
up your game for the playoffs. I'm looking for some bunting, some signs, something.
Okay. Yep. We'll put that on the to-do list. Excellent. Well, that's our episode today. I super appreciated talking to you and getting to know all that Skyline is doing, and you've presented a lot of great ways for people to get involved or to donate in kind or something of that sort. So definitely want people to check out. You mentioned the website where there's a form to volunteer. We'll throw that in the show notes and things like that. But Katy, I just want to say, before we wrap up and do the credits, thank you so much for coming on and talking about this thing. You seem to know your stuff as CEO of Skyline.
Well, I'm glad that comes across. Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Jake, I appreciate the opportunity to come and share. I loved having you down for a tour at Skyline. That's something I love to do. So if there's anyone who's listening that wants to come see Skyline for themselves, tell them to hit me up through the website.
There you go.
I'd love to show them around.
Beautiful. I love to hear that. All right, everybody else who is listening and watching, I want to say, first of all, thank you for spending your time with us today. I suppose you could have listened to something else today, but you listened to this episode, and I very much appreciate that. But we grow, and the message of these great nonprofits grows when you share out the episode. So definitely share this episode. tell a friend, shout it from the rooftops, whatever it needs to be. Get the word out so we can support great nonprofits like Skyline and help other people learn about just the amazing opportunities to get involved right here in Oklahoma City. So this episode is produced by Theophany Media and is hosted by me, Jake Doberins. Our studio here is Rose Records, and Taylor Moore is our editor. He helps make this show look good and cuts it well and all that fun stuff. All our graphics and logo are by Joy Renee Creative. She does a great job making things look pretty when I do not have those skills whatsoever. And finally, I want to thank our sponsors today. More information is going to be below, but it's these businesses that love and value Oklahoma City and Oklahoma City nonprofits that help us make this show so professional and get the word out and all of that. So thank you to sponsors, and again, thank you to listeners, and finally, thank you to Katy.
Thanks, Jake.